Oh, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we had a little bit of problem with buffering, so I'm starting this broadcast a second time. So welcome to everybody. And for those of you who are new, we are talking about um, life, as we always do, but particularly today, we're going to be talking about procrastination and listening to your inner voice. So, what I was saying earlier before the buffering started was that we really have a problem where we think that procrastination is just a bad thing. And hi there, Jody. And what I wanted to demonstrate is procrastination isn't always a bad thing. That if you listen to your inner voice, it's amazing what it can do to help you. So, a lot of what we're going to, hi, Linda, a lot of what we're going to be doing today is talking about listening to our inner voice and the magic of doing that. So, Jody, before the buffering thing happened, I think you did try and tell me an example of where you listened to your inner voice. And if you did, can you possibly just type it back again? And I'm sorry to ask you, but because I lost it in the, the trying to find to get back on the air again. And by the way, is the buffering any better so far? And that would be my question. So this next quote comes under the same thing about listening to your inner voice, and it's about love. So, and I thought you guys would enjoy this. It says that love is not between a handsome boy and a beautiful girl. Love is between two real hearts. And I've always said to people, it's I don't know if this makes sense to anybody except me. And I say, it's not so much that I love you. I love the feeling I get when I'm close to you. Now, I know that sounds really weird, but what I realized in with my friends and anything else is when I'm around them, I love how I feel. They make me laugh. They are great for in-depth debates. They, whatever part they play in my life. But the love is very selfish in some ways. And so I was thinking about that, and being me, of course, I own that. I go, I'm very, very selfish in this. I just love the way I feel when I'm around you. So would you agree that love really, it doesn't see beauty, it doesn't see, have you ever seen people and thought, gosh, I wonder how come they got together? Because they're so diametrically opposed, they're so completely different. And yet they seem to, hi, good to see you. That's Marie, no? Yes, that's Marie, I think. Um, and if you're driving home, you should not be typing. So I wanted to ask you. Oh, okay. So Jody's saying, and that's in reply, I listen to my inner voice when I get a very strong feeling of not taking action on something. Yes, exactly. Or perhaps what may seem like an odd time to be taking action on a particular thing. Yes, it goes both ways. I quite agree. I quite agree, Jody, that sometimes the actions that we take um, are amazing. All right. And it's, yes, sometimes it's a procrastination and sometimes it's a proactive one. That's a really good point. And I love that. How do you like this one? Your inner voice is the voice of divinity. To hear it, we need to be in solitude, even in crowded places. And I really, have you ever been in a crowded place and you're going, I just, wow, I just heard something. And I've had it happen to me a number of times. And it was quite amazing how it happened. So to listen to your inner voice, you have to be still enough to hear it. You know, if you're busy in your mind, that doesn't work. So it's unmistakable. Yes, I agree. It's like you need to do this now. That's what you're saying, right, Jody? You just got this sort of thing. This is what you need to do, and you need to pick up the phone or whatever it was and do it now. Yeah. And how many times have you thought, I really should phone so and so, let's say Jane, and that as you're thinking about it, Jane phones you? How many times have you had that one? And then you say, I was just about to phone you, and they roll their eyes, their side. Yeah. All right. Now, this is a quote from Steve Jobs, and he said, your time is limited, so don't waste it living somebody else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. And I really, in a nutshell, that says it all, doesn't it? So to me, when I procrastinate, what helps me is keep saying, you're not stupid. I have to remind myself of that one. You're not stupid, Sal. So why are you procrastinating? And, if I could, I really wish that I had written down everything that went through my mind on this rather large procrastination. And I said, because I'm scared. And I went, well, you're not a scaredy sort of person. So why are you scared? You understand? And I kept cognitive. We were talking about that last week. I kept talking back to the inner voice and saying, okay, why are you scared? Well, I'm scared that this might happen. Well, let's find that out if it happens. So now why else are you scared? And I kept going down the list. And then all the time I was trying to make sure I could give my mind the answer so that it would settle down. Now, I heard a really good quote, and it came from okay, that's interesting. Hang on a second. Let me just do this quote first. It came from the new television series New Amsterdam, which is a hospital type series, and I don't normally watch those. And it was really funny where I was watching it and I heard this one part of a sentence. And I went, wow, I'm so glad I watched this episode. And what the guy said was, is that a fact or emotion? And I went, gosh, what a great thing to ask yourself. Well, what if this happens? What if that? That's not a fact. That's an emotion, right? That's a what if monster. So, is that a fact? No. What's the fact? I don't know. Exactly. So let's go and find out the facts. Makes sense. And I thought, boy, that's, that my viewers will really latch onto that if they understand it. All right, when you start overwhelming, ask yourself, is that a fact or is it an emotion? And, I wanted to call this particular broadcast, Emotion Slows You Down and Facts Move You Forward. And I wonder if that makes any sense. Emotion slows you down. All right. And that's from me. That's my quote, because when I looked at what had happened to me this week, I realized that my emotions were slowing me down. I needed to speed up. And to speed up, I needed to be proactive. We all know this, if you want to get anything done, you have to do something. Not think about it, do something and deal with it. Deal with it to this point. When you get to the point you can't go any further, then sort out that problem and go forward again. Jodie's giving me an example. She says she'll be in a very high level of pain at a particular moment. And she says it's amazing how many times either Lauren or myself will text her. and ask if anything's wrong. She said it's uncanny. Yes. Uh, I actually, I actually have that with certain friends where I will send them a quick text and go, "Are you okay? Because you're on my mind a lot at the moment." And they'll go, "How did you know?" And I just listen to my inner voice. Now, Linda says she and her inner voice have some really great conversations. Yeah, Linda, what are they? Do you do the same thing, which is you just keep talking back until you calm yourself down and get to what the facts are? Or or what are these conversations? Because they could be positive or negative, right? I really do have to do some serious self-talk, which is, you're not stupid, so there's a good reason why you're procrastinating. Does that make sense? I don't think I procrastinate because I'm a wuss. I'm not a wuss in so many things. So therefore, there's a good reason. And I just haven't got to it yet because I haven't settled down enough and done the cognitive stuff to find out what the good reason is. And this is a really nice quote. The inner voice has both gentleness and clarity. So to get to authenticity, you really need to keep going down to the bone, to the honesty and the inevitability of something. Yeah, Jodi's saying she coaches herself on a regular basis. Yes, well done, Jodi. Wow. See, Linda's saying my inner voice is very positive voice. So it tends to talk me through what I need and what you need to do, right? That's awesome. So one of the other things I like to do is to not limit my thinking. So, it's like, let me start with the best case scenario. What is the outcome I want here? Um, Jodi, I was thinking about you and your coat. Can I talk about that? Because I think that was inner voice stuff. It's amazing. Yeah. So, you know, Jody heard that the first snowfall is due in New Hampshire. So naturally, her mind goes to, am I going to be cold? And she needed a new coat. Now, so she started to look on the internet and found herself a beautiful, um, is that a down-filled jacket coat that you found? Was it down-filled? And while I'm waiting for that answer, it was 50% off. I mean, go figure that one. And at this time of the year, they shouldn't be having 50% off. But so if oh, it's poly, okay, but equally warm. Um, well, not. It's different. It's just heavier, right? So you look at it and you go, it's really important to listen, because if Jody hadn't gone and looked right there and then, she might not have found that 50% off on that coat. Now, Jody, if they hadn't announced the snow, you probably wouldn't have looked, right? So, if you like, it was a voice from the television that was your warning um, beacon. Wow, listen to what Linda says. Yes, Linda, well done. Linda says, oh, it wasn't always a positive voice, the one in her head. But I decided a long time ago that if it's not positive, it's not what I want to hear. Yes, and that's why I start saying to myself, Linda, that's an excellent point, right? Don't listen to the negativity, because that's you. It's not your inner voice. The negativity comes from your emotion and your fears. All right. And so that's why I always start. You're not you're not a stupid person. So why are you procrastinating? Right? There's a good reason. Right. So that's why I start with that, which is, I start by holding myself as not altogether stupid, which most of the time works. Sometimes not so much. It depends on my mood, right? Now listen to this one. Your mind knows only some things. Your inner voice, your instinct, knows everything. If you listen to what you know instinctively, it will always lead you down the right path. And you know who said that? Henry Winkler. The Fonz, for those of you who are old enough to remember the Fonz. Your mind knows only some things. Your inner voice, your instinct, all right? Do you understand the difference? All right? That knows everything. If you listen to what you know instinctively, right, it will always lead you down the right path. Trust your instinct. This one's a nice quote as well. I'm always interested in that relationship between outer reality and inner desire. And I think it's important to pay attention to the inner voice because it's the only way to discover your mission in life and the only way to develop the strength to break with whatever familial or cultural norms are preventing you from fulfilling your destiny. Wow. I talk a lot about everything that's happened to me in my life has brought me to this place here, literally, to broadcasting on YouTube. If I look at my whole life, it's brought me to here, and it's like I cannot tell you how many times I have, in one way or another, been trying, not trying. I have been helping people um, in by communication. And it's funny how many times I moved away from it and then I end up coming back to it. And then I move away from it and then I come back to it. And it's I understand that each time my inner voice pulls me back and goes, what are you doing? And and if I look at the positive, and I'm going to for a second, and for those of you who think this sounds egotistical, your stuff, not mine. Because what I remind myself is that I have a rare talent. And the rare talent is I can make difficult concepts quite easy for people by the way in which I can describe them. And that isn't my wording. That is the wording of somebody I was speaking to once who happened to be a psychologist. And he said, you have an uncanny ability to take very complex psychological ideas and turn them into a sentence that makes so much sense. Yeah, and Linda's quoting Oprah with, I am where I am because every decision I have ever made. Yes, so true. And it's like if you know that you have a gift and it makes an awful lot of sense that you should use it in some way. So that's why I believe I always come back to trying to make it easier for people to understand what's happening. Now, how about this one? Everyone who wills can hear the inner voice. It's within everybody. In other words, if you want to hear your inner voice, you have to be prepared to listen. Now, question, how do you know it's your inner voice and not your mind? Let me ask you guys that. How do you know that what you're listening to is your inner voice and not just your mind? Yeah, right. I'm not sure if I have the answer. For me, I go, the inner voice is much stronger somehow. You know, the my mind nags me. Yes, exactly, Jody. Jody's saying, but it feels like it's driven more somehow. Yes, it's much stronger. And I think it deals in moving you forward. My inner voice moves me forward. My mind worries about intellectual stuff. My inner voice doesn't. My inner voice just says, you need to go and do this now. Or remember that story I told about when I was driving home one day and I was literally 10 blocks from my house. I know that road. And I accidentally, unquote, turned left down a road I'd never been down before. I think I told you guys that. And I'm going, why on earth did I turn left right here? And as I look, I see a building start to go up in flames. And then I went, I guess I was meant to see that. And I literally got on my cell and dialed 911 and went, okay, I'm sitting outside. Well, actually, I lied. The first thing I did was I reversed back to find the street number. I knew the street I'd been on, but I didn't know what the street number was that I was now on. And I quickly reversed the Jeep back and I looked at it and went, okay. And then I phoned 911. I said, I'm in the intersection of this, and I'm 4 houses down. On the left-hand side, there is a house that just burst into flames. You know, and it was just like, I took a wrong turn, or did I? You know, and so that day, and then the funny thing was, then I had this really strong voice said, and now that you've let them know that, get out of this road. And I'm going, what? You know me, I can be so slow sometimes. And I could hear this voice saying, get out of this road. And I'm going, huh? And then it struck me what it was trying to tell me, that any minute now there was going to be a fire engine blocking that road and I wouldn't be able to get out. And it was a cul-de-sac. So I went, good point. You know, I literally did a dipsy doodle turn and got out of there. Linda, yes, your problem is you question everything. All right. So do you want to give me an example so that so other people can relate to it? Because I don't think you're the only one. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about, does the body try and tell you something as well? For example, I keep thinking about this tweaked nerve that I've got in my groin. And I go, it's really interesting because if I listen to all the stuff that I learned from Louise Hay, um, if I think from my mind, okay, so hang on a second, let's see if this helps you, Jody. If I think from my mind, I go, well, I did that because I was carrying boxes up and down the stairs and probably at a bad angle and da 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 da. See, that's what your mind would tell you. Now, your body or your inner mind, your inner self would say, you maybe I was overdoing it. And my body wanted me to slow down a bit. What's a really good way to get me to slow down? A bit of pain. And, you know, so it was just like, okay, fine. It forces you to slow down. And, you know, I can be walking from one room to another in my house and suddenly that nerve will catch. And I, you know, literally, you know, can feel that. So I'm going, okay, I'm going to take it easy. I'm not going to stop, but I'm going to make sure that I pace myself even better. So Linda, you know, this questioning everything is your intellect. And I wonder if you can give me an example. Yes. You know, now let me tell you what Louise Hay said. And this is really important, Jody, because I find it fascinating when you do the work. And if ever you want to check out her stuff, you can heal your life, I think she calls it. The thing about the back going out is when, you know, it's really interesting. What is it that Lionel needs to deal with that he wasn't using his back properly? You know, what does your back do? It keeps you solid on the ground, right? You know, it's so he is. Is there any way that, you know, what do you need a backbone for? You know what I mean? You know, that's what you say to people. You know, get a backbone here. And so the chances are there's something going on in Lionel's inner mind, where he needs to straighten up and get solid on something. That's from what I understood from Louise Hay. That's how she explains it. Um, I Same thing, right? Here I am. I'm doing all sorts of things, and now to me, part of it was, okay, what do my legs represent? My legs are my ability to move forward. And so if one of my legs starts giving out, it's testing my resolve. Do I want to still keep going forward? Yes. And if so, you know, what do I need to do? So it's really interesting to me. It's like, why, again, I wasn't standing on 2 feet properly with some decisions I had to make earlier in the week. Does that make sense? And then my body reflected that. Yes. And, you know, Linda's saying she can't think of an example and then gives me one. Right. She says, I can't think of an example. But using my driving instructor, which is your example, she said, I would take longer to learn as you questioned why on everything. Absolutely. And that is your mind, your intellect trying to, it's your intellect, you know, trying to make sure you don't make a mistake. Does that make sense? And you know, I find that really interesting. Um, I believe the reason that you are as smart as you are is because you do question things. You don't take things for granted. It's part of your um, it's part of your process, Linda. Whereas a lot of people may do it internally, you actually have the ability to verbalize it. And I do believe we should ask more questions. I think we'd be a lot safer as people if we did ask more questions and not just blindly go in. Yeah. Okay. So again, is there anything that you are procrastinating about? And let's see if we can work through some stuff. Linda, I've just found a really great quote. All right. Her villains were real, but her heroes were fake. Right? And isn't it funny that we believe the worst and yet we don't believe the best? Yeah, Jody is saying that she also is a verbalizer and Lionel is an internalizer. Well, I think I think that happens time and time again. Um, all right, I think that's why they wrote Men Are from Mars and Women from Venus, because we have different ways of processing. Women are inclined to process out loud, right? And women will talk their way out of a problem. And it's, it's like they literally will go, yeah, but what about this? And then, yeah, but yeah, have you thought about that? Well, I did. And then, and literally that's what will happen. Whereas men do all that internally. And that's why I always say to women, you need somebody you can talk to. And I don't mean anything other than, you need someone you can process with. Makes sense. And oh, yeah. So so here's the quote that we're talking about, all right? That I think I think one of the great tips is that you should always love yourself. If you don't love yourself, take care of yourself, cater to yourself and that little inner voice, you will really not be worthy of being with someone else because you won't be the best version of you. And I think Linda's quote was incredible. I don't listen to the negative. It's not the voice I want to hear. Right? Um, because that's the one that's been in her life so much. Now she listens to the positive. Now, it isn't that she isn't processing stuff, but now she believes that she's capable. Now she believes, you're right, that there is a good reason. And it's so interesting that we let this what if monster, really, yeah, I'm a risk manager, so what if da 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 da, and that's story of my life. But the other side, yeah, Linda says yes, Sal. Now I believe. Yeah, and if you believe you're in the right place at the right time to do the right things with the right people, what happens then? Do you know what I mean? It might not be the Disneyland you envisage, but what if this is exactly where you're meant to be? And what if this is exactly where you're meant to be with the people around you that can help you do what it is you have to do, right? And it's important. One of the things that Jody will tell you, because I talk to her quite a bit about stuff about the broadcast, is I very rarely plan the broadcasts ahead of time. I actually wait for the inner voice. I wonder if that makes sense to any of you. I will literally Friday, Thursday night, normally ask my inner voice, tell me what it is you want me to talk about today. And, you know, I didn't get an answer last night. So I asked again when I woke up this morning. And then it sort of all went together. Well, Linda, Linda's saying, I believe that one Friday night in the room, I'll help somebody who's been down my path. Yeah, I think you already have, Linda. And I thank you. I think what I value so much about your reality is, yeah, I believe she has as well. Jody's agreeing with me on that one that Linda already has. I think it's so important that you understand just by being here and talking about your path helps other people. How many people are listening that you have no idea about, that you have helped, that you will never know? And the reason I say that is I get the emails. You know what I mean? And talking about that, if you do have a question that you'd like me to talk about, or a problem that you'd like me to talk about, please feel free to write to me at dearmamasal@gmail.com, and I will help you through. I had an email this week from somebody who had a very interesting situation. And I'm not going to use any names, but it was an interesting situation that I want to talk about. She got tied up in wording. She'd been invited to a wedding, and the wedding invitation said that the dress code was semi-formal. And it was really interesting how this sent her into a tailspin, because she had a vision of what semi-formal looked like, and the only dress she had that was semi-formal, she couldn't fit into anymore. So she wrote to me and said, I feel fat and ugly, da, 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 da. Now, was that the truth, or was it emotion? All right? Was it the truth, or was that emotion? And, I talked to her and I said, something, I probably weigh way more than you do, and I don't feel fat and ugly. I feel overweight and gorgeous. Right? And it's just like, yes, and so I said to her, what's the problem? I don't have anything else that's semi-formal. I have a dress, but I don't think it's semi-formal. And I said, send me a picture of it. And she put it on and took a picture, and I went, yeah, that'll do. That's semi-formal. And, it was really interesting, because she got all tied up in what semi-formal was. And what I said to her was, you are losing sight of what the intent is. When they say semi-formal on an invitation, it means don't come in your jeans. It doesn't mean, you have to be dressed up to the nines. I said, I go to any wedding, I go wearing pants. I don't wear dresses anymore. And it was really interesting. I said, I need you to really get a grip here, because whoever it is that is getting married is going to wear shoes. Exactly. And so, but even then, if you've got really pretty flip-flops and it's summer, yeah, pants as in trousers. Yeah, it's okay, Linda. I know you can translate. So, it's like, whoever's getting married is going to be so pleased to see you. That's the important thing. You are there is the important thing, not what you're wearing. And quite honestly, if the only thing you've got to wear is your jeans, I would still wear them and go rather than not go. And I would apologize and say, hey, I'm sorry, this is the only thing I can fit into at the moment. Or I'd go and borrow something, from somebody. So, this to me is, we lose sight in our judgments, right? And I said, you're judging yourself here. You're judging your dress not to be semi-formal. A dress is semi-formal, right? Shorts and a tank top are not are not semi-formal, but a dress is. So, to me, I thought it was interesting how that was her mind. It wasn't her inner voice. Makes sense? When it's judgmental like that, it is your mind. It's not, and it's it's the left side of your mind. Left side of your mind, the intellectual side. Had to think about that. So, Linda, one of the joys that you have taught yourself is to not listen to all the negativity. And I want to tell you that you do some Googling if you can, but the number of negative thoughts we put into our mind a day is actually a minute is scary. All right, now listen to this one. Andie MacDowell, the actress, said, I think women have an innate ability to be intuitive with people that they truly love. but they have to trust that inner voice. And I think it's there. I think we are more intuitive than men. Why? First of all, do you agree? And if so, why are women more intuitive? I don't necessarily agree. And I go back to Steve Jobs. I think certain men and certain women listen to their inner voice. Now then. Okay, so this is Linda's. Nope, she said, as I told you a while ago, my family is allowed a 5-minute rant after work, and that's it. I will not listen to any more than that. Yeah, because it ruins your day. So, but you know something, Linda? Here's my other question. If we only listen to the good, do we ignore the things that need attention? That's what's coming in my mind. If we only listen to the good, I'm amazed how many people will say to me, I don't watch the news because it's so negative. And, I go, how can you not watch the news? If you don't know what's going on in the world, but, is it true that if you don't watch the news, you're a happier person? No problem, Kerry. How are you doing, honey? All right, so we're talking, Kerry, just so you know, we're talking about our inner voice. And how do you know when it's your inner voice versus your mind? And talking about listening, not allowing too much negativity in, so that you can keep listening to your inner voice. Because you need to be pretty calm. I think it's interesting something that Jody said. She said about the peace broadcast that we did on Sunday. And by the way, I think I will do more of those, Jody. She said the peace broadcast changed my life. And I was already a peaceful person. In what way, Jody? In what way did that peace broadcast change your life? Because you allowed it to. Do you understand that? You were open to that. And you were presumably in need of some extra level of peace for you to be impacted. Now, while we're waiting for people to answer that, it says everyone has an inner voice, the one that's negative Nancy. I'd say ignore that voice and be confident and follow your heart. Right? So I like to think of my negative side as my watchdog. If I listen to my negative side go, yeah, but you need to be careful, da da da. I go, I know you're trying to protect me. I know it's my inner child trying to protect me. And I go, yeah, I know you're trying to protect me, but I really want to go ahead and do this. Right? Because I think when you can weigh both sides, the inner voice is so much stronger. And I agree with Linda. If you keep listening to the positive voice, it really won't take you too far wrong. But here's my question. I think we need to listen to both, because if you think about it, if you only listen to the positive, and if I say it that way, I keep thinking about a child wanting to cross the road. Well, yeah, it wants to cross the road now. So you need to listen to that second voice, which goes, wait, before you cross the road, did you check that it's safe to do that? Oh, interesting. Jody's saying, I am now doing gratitude checks at the top of every hour and inviting calm and peace into our worlds, not just hers, ours. The universe provided groceries when Niall couldn't get to the store and money for Uber. I know, isn't that amazing? Yeah, because it, you know, Jody can't get out without Lionel. Lionel's back went out. He couldn't walk to the grocery store, and these things happened for her. It was amazing. Somebody miraculously just sent her some a box of groceries. And how did you get the money again? I can't remember how you got that extra money, but she suddenly got some extra money into her life, and she could pay for the Uber to so Lionel could take an Uber to go and get the groceries. So you look at it and go, if you believe in the best, it's amazing how many times it can happen. And so Jody, I want you to know that I am having lots of positive thoughts about you having that van that you need to get around in. So, all right. So here's the next quote. Ah, interesting, Linda. Linda says, Linda has, Nicholas is autistic, right? So she says, with Nicholas, I've learned to listen to all voices, all right? But big girl pants, I need to hear negative, but act on the positive. Yes, so that's what I agree with you. I listen to my negative input because I know it's trying to protect me. So I go, okay, I hear you. And so what do I need to quieten that voice down? I need to do this. So to me, it's like all part of this cognitive stuff that we were talking about last week. How about this quote? It says, ambition is your inner voice that tells you you can and should strive to go beyond your circumstances or station in life. Do you think that if the Beatles had listened to their negative voices, they would ever have listened to Brian Epstein and become as big as they are? You know, if Steve Jobs had listened to his negative voices all the time, we would not have the Apple or the Apple Mac, or we wouldn't have had the iPhone, the iPod. You know, you think about all those things. And by the way, if he hadn't been as picky as he was, all right, we would not have had a lot of other things as well. You know, do you know how many colors of white he looked at before he chose the white for the iPad, for the iPhone? You know, it was amazing. It was like, people were going, it's white for goodness sake. And he's going, no, we got to get the right white. So I think that when you have driving ambition, it will take you where you need to go. And how about Susie Orman, the financial person? She says you must trust yourself more than you trust others. How about that? Pay attention to your inner voice. It will tell you if, how, and in what way you are investing and whether it's right. So think about that. You know, why of all the places that I saw, did I suddenly see the cottage and go, I think that's for me? Because it was not what I thought I would do. And yet, if I look at it, I had looked at that possibility. And I still don't know why, right? My inner voice is still going, are you insane? You're going to have to deal with propane bottles. You're going to have to deal with da 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 and da 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 da. And I'm going, yep. But I also know that I'm going to, even with all the downsizing I've done, I'm still going to have to lose another probably 2/3 of what I've got. even though I've done this huge downsizing. But, it's like, it is what it is. But the first thing is, to just keep moving forward. And I realize I'm getting to the point where I can actually just nearly give you a tour of my house now. Do you know what I mean? It's getting tidy enough. So that's what I'm going to be doing pretty soon. Because I know everybody's always wanted to do that house tour, and I'm going, I could never do a tour of my house. All right, so listen to this one. This was that successful entrepreneurs find the balance between listening to their inner voice and staying persistent in driving for success. Because sometimes success is waiting right across from the transitional bump that is disguised as failure. Yeah, Linda's saying her inner voice has now become her best constructive mate. In other words, this is your inner voice is your cheerleader. Am I getting that right, Linda? Instead of negative Nelly, your inner voice has become your cheerleader. You can do this. Good. Now listen to this. I think this is beautiful. This says, the musician writes for the orchestra what his inner mind sings to him. I think that's such a beautiful picture, right? The painter rarely relies without disadvantage solely upon the images which his inner eye presents to him. Nature gives him his forms, study governs his combinations of them. I think what I love about the art that I do is I know it's beyond my control, right? My job is just to put the paint there and move it. And yet, there are times when the way in which I get driven to move it makes the difference between. I mean, I just love this one up here, right? And you go, how did I do that? I still love that one. Oh, wait a minute, that one, which I call Cafe au lait. And, it's just like, is it by chance or is it that that's the what do you call it? I don't want to use the word talent. Isn't that funny? Wow. I don't want to use the word talent about myself. Very interesting. Yeah, and you adore every beach piece until I mess it up. I haven't finished with that beach one. Okay, so Kerry's saying her inner voice is odd. By the way, Kerry, are you procrastinating about anything? Because I wanted to demonstrate a process with your inner voice. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Linda's saying, yeah, a Sal moment. Yeah. Did you see what happened to me? The word talent was trying to run across my tongue and fall out of my mouth, and I wouldn't let it out. Because to me, it is really strange. All right. For some reason, I don't want to acknowledge the fact that I have art talent. Oh, Kerry is procrastinating on logging her food. All right. Now, Kerry, I cringed. Did I really? I'd have to go back and look at that. Kerry, can we work on that for a second? Let me know. I don't want to do it without your permission. Okay. So, Kerry, we know you're not a stupid person. Agreed? And I want to start with that because Yeah, there's nobody in this room that knows you that thinks you're a stupid person. So therefore, you have a good reason for procrastinating about logging your food. What is it? And that's literally how I recommend you do it. I am not a stupid person. I can see behavior. I am not logging the food. And for those of you who wonder what she's talking about, we have a little group of people that are all working on eating better and doing better things. And we keep ourselves accountable by logging in our food. And it's really a competition with yourself. It's not about what anybody else is doing. It's about, can you be accountable for what you're eating on a daily basis? And so, Kerry, the question is, you're not a stupid person. You were able to log in your food. So what has changed? And I think that's the way you need to look at it. Why has my behavior changed? And it's quite simple. And we'll wait for the answer. Now, we can think of lots of possible answers. Linda, I love your honesty, Linda. Linda says in her case, logging in her food made her look in detail at what I'd done, and I wasn't ready to see it. All right, so Kerry's saying she's sorry for the delay in answering, but Mike called her. Okay, so um, this is like, yeah, okay, so Kerry's answering, I use the excuse I'm too tired. Is that fact or is that an excuse? All right. And you say, I use the excuse because some days it could be a fact. And I have that happen, but I then do it the next morning, which is really a cop out. Yes, good, Kerry, that you can see that. Can you understand that the reason you're not doing it is it's not that important to you anymore, obviously? Wow, Linda's lost 5 stone, 7 pounds, 16 pounds to a stone. So oh, I can't do that math, Linda, because we talk in pounds over here. Well, actually, some of us talk in kilos, but yeah, but you're not too tired to breathe. You're not too tired to brush your teeth. You're not too tired to, do certain other things. Do you understand? 14 pounds to a stone. Okay. I thought it was 16 ounces to a pound. Ah, my bad. Bad memory. Um, well done, Linda. Yes, absolutely. Sorry, Jody, you're quite right. Yeah, let's start by congratulating her. Well done. I lost 3 pounds this week, I think. So here's the thing. Um, yes, you can be too tired today, but if you're motivated to do the work, you would then catch up tomorrow. Now, we've all missed days, Kerry, but it's like, but 99%, I'm too lazy. I don't think you're a lazy person. You see, Kerry, I don't think you're a lazy person. I think you're just not motivated for some reason. It's not important to you anymore, right? Mike's more important than logging food, for example. Thanks, Linda. Jody, thank you. Yeah, Jody hasn't done it forever, right? And so the question is, none of you is stupid. The whole reason I did hang on a second, the whole reason I formed that group was because I know this sounds really strange. I know that losing weight uh, and eating right isn't just about logging food. I don't know if you've noticed, but we talk about all sorts of different things in that group, all right? So yes, Kerry, I agree. You need a nudge to do it. Who's meant to nudge you? All right? Whose job is it? Just so we know, whose job is it to nudge you? Think about that. That's what your inner voice said to you, right? The answer you get is, I need somebody to remind me to do it. So our question to you is, who needs to remind you? I have another question, which is, did we in some way not make you feel, no, that's you make yourself feel things. Did you in some way feel that we weren't interested in what you were logging? Yeah, and so, but do you realize that what you do is you withdrew from the group? So we haven't got the benefit of finding that out. And Jody, if you could just remind me on that one, that Linda has lost a lot of weight, and so has Kerry. Yes, and Linda's saying weight loss is 50% mental and 50% physical. Um, and again, you need to listen to your inner voice. I asked my inner voice, what do I need to do this week to lose some weight? And it was so funny, Jody, talking about this accidents that happen. I was wondering about that, and I had ordered some baby bok choy for vegetables this week, and they sent me a dirty, great big bok choy, not a little package of baby ones. And I'm thinking that is a tremendous amount of bok choy. What am I going to do? And I cut it up and froze it. And then I thought, well, I guess what I need to do is eat bok choy this week. And it was really funny because what I did was I decided instead of having potatoes this week, I was going to load up on bok choy. Bok choy was going to be my potato vegetable. You know, I was going to have carrots and da 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 da, da but then and bok choy. Everything was going to have bok choy. I lost some weight. How about that? You know, so all right. So wow, Kerry's saying she managed to find new pants or trousers for those in the UK for the great sum of $3.99 American. Wow, that's amazing. You bought your first few clothes items off the peg. Wow, for the first time in 30 years. That's amazing, Linda. That is awesome. Well done. All right, now here's a really nice quote. Are you ready? Take a deep breath, everybody. Listen to your inner light, it will guide you. Listen to your inner peace, it will feed you. Listen to the inner love, it will transform you. It will divinitize you. No, no, I can't say that word. Divinize you. Uh, it will immortalize you. In other words, when we listen to our inner light, we will be guided in a very positive way. If we listen to our inner peace, if we're at peace, we will be enough. I think that's how I'd have to word that, right? And when we listen to the inner love, when we're not thinking about revenge or how nasty people are, when we can look at it from a place of love, it's amazing how it changes you. Yeah. Oh, Linda's saying, I'm waiting for my inner love to love me. Yeah, it takes time, doesn't it? I'm certain in my case it will be a work, a lifetime mission. And listen to this one. This says, the problem with listening, of course, is that we don't. There is too much noise going on in our heads, so we never hear anything. The inner conversation simply never stops. It can be our voice or whatever voice we want to supply, but it's constant racket. In some way, we don't see, and in some way, we don't feel, we don't touch, we don't taste. And how many of you know that we're so busy being busy? We're so busy chit chat, chit chat, chit chat. So, what does that bring up for you? And while you're typing that, let me just read what Kerry has just said. Kerry said, I lost about 5 pounds this month. I'm cutting down on junk food, which has been hard, and eating more protein. And I'm reconnecting to my love of cinnamon applesauce and peanut butter. Yes, it's amazing how those little changes help. And you know what I found when I was sorting out stuff, Kerry, and I was thinking maybe we should start discussing some of these things. I remember at one time getting a book from the program, The Greatest Loser, and how I picked up the book, I have no idea, but it gave you alternatives. Instead of eating this, try this. And as I said, instead of eating potato this week during the week, I'll have it on Sunday. But instead of having potato, I had bok choy. So it's about changing one for the other, and the fact that you're cutting down on junk food and eating more protein. Yeah, I was having a discussion with a friend of mine, Kerry, and I said, I'm really struggling with energy. And she looked at me and said, when did you last have a good steak? And I said, what? She said, Sal, when did you last have a good steak? You're a steak person. When did you last have a good steak? And I said, well, I try not to have that very often. And she said, you need to start eating more steak. Not not dirty great steaks, but I only have half a steak when I have a steak. And she said, because steak will give you energy. And I went, oh, so guess what? I now had steak and bok choy and and vegetables, right? You like the way the bok choy keeps coming in this week. Yes, exactly, Kerry. Kerry said, I turned down a baked potato last night, but allowed myself a few tater tots today. Yes, it's not about taking them out all the time, right? It's about sometimes. So that's why I'm saying I'm not going to give up on potatoes. I'm going to be doing shepherd's pie on Sunday. And believe you me, it's going to have potatoes on top. But it's like, I'm doing less of it. You know what I found out? I found out that swapping out my winter crackers for the Wassa rye crisp bread made a tremendous difference to my carbs. Just a simple thing like that. So it's like, okay, fine. I used to have these and it cost me dearly, but now I can have these. Um, and I can actually have more than I thought. So it's good. Yeah, and I think, it's not about denying yourself anything, Kerry. So the question is, did you give up? Because we're away from where we started, but I want to bring this back now. Did you give up clocking in your calories because you were, eating more junk food than you felt you should have been? And therefore you didn't want that to be showing up? Because I used to think yeah, exactly. All right. So that was smart, all right? You didn't want to lose and lose whatever. What would you have lost if you had done that? And I think we can all relate to this, Kerry. That's why I'm asking you, and I really appreciate your participation. Yeah, so that's the whole thing. Would you have lost respect, whatever? I don't know. But obviously, in some area, you didn't want to report the truth because the truth wasn't um, good in your view. All right. So, do you understand that you had a good reason to stop? You didn't want to embarrass yourself, or you didn't want to keep admitting that you were eating junk food, or whatever it was. But somewhere in there, when you sort of work through it, do you remember that program we did on cognitive stuff? When you work your way through it, you're going to find out what it was. And you don't have to tell us, but make sure you tell yourself that truth. I found it really interesting when I was looking at why I was procrastinating. The number one thing I asked myself, what is the emotion here? And the emotion was, I'm scared. And in fact, I wasn't just scared. I believe I was terrified at some level. And I verbalized that. And then I went, okay, fine. Now then, what are you scared of? Da 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 da. And then, I literally cognitive worked my way through it, knowing that it was okay to be scared every now and then. Right. But staying scared wasn't an option. I needed to move forward. Therefore, I needed to get out of emotion and deal with facts. I love that. Right. Now, listen to this. It says, be active every day. It makes it easier to hear the inner voice. Yeah. How many of you understand that concept, which is, I find being creative, I hear my inner voice. Some people doing journaling, they will really hear their inner voice. And that's one of the reasons why journaling is so important. Slow the mind down, get out of your normal routine, go for a walk, and hear your inner voice. How many of you find, those that can do it, how many of you find you hear your inner voice a lot when you're driving? I was amazed how many, in the days when I used to write speeches, I was amazed how many speeches would be written in my head when I was driving. And in fact, if I was struggling with a particular speech, I would get in the car and go and drive. Yeah, Kerry says she's found herself wanting more water recently. Her body is telling her what to do. Good. Here's a nice one. And I can't wait to tell you. Well, I can. I'm going to wait to tell you who said it. But it was, if you hear an inner voice within you say you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. Do you understand the reality of that? You just need to do it. And the way you get good at something is to do it. And so, do you know who said that? Vincent van Gogh, or Van Gogh, I believe they call it here in North America. But being Dutch, I have to say it the way he would have said it. Wow, it's interesting. Linda, do you still suffer from road rage? Or are you being funny? Yeah. Um, I must admit, I very rarely get tweaked by anybody else's driving. I used to be constantly tweaked by other people's driving. Right? It's just like, now I'm just going, hey, you're obviously late for something, and you're late for something because you didn't leave enough time, but you'll learn that one eventually. In the meantime, you will continue to punish those of us who are on time and driving at a normal pace. The hero, whoa, sorry. The hero in each of us is required to answer the call of individualization. We must turn away. Sorry. We must turn away. Why did I turn my sound down? All right. Can you still hear me? Or did my sound on the recording go down as well? I'm hoping that the broadcast sound is exactly the same. I just turned down the sound inside my computer. We must turn away from the cacophony, that's the big noise, of the outer world to hear the inner voice, right? How many times have we heard that one? And when we can dare to live its promotings, then we achieve personhood. We may become strangers to those who thought they knew us, but at least we are no longer strangers to ourselves. Right? Isn't that lovely? We're no longer strangers to ourselves when we listen to our inner voice. And then here we have this one. Take a deep breath on this one. The voice there is the voice inside you that whispers all day long. I feel this is right for me. I know that this is wrong. No teacher, priest, parent, friend, or wise man can decide what's right for you. Just listen to the voice that speaks inside. How much time do we spend trying to match up to other people's expectations of us, or this is what so and so would have me do, right? Instead of just doing what is right for you and owning it. This is like I've learned to say to people, yeah, I'm sure that's the right way to do it for you. Yeah, I like it as well. Wow, Linda's saying, I tell my son to take no advice other than his own. I say to the boys in my life that have adopted me, my job is not to tell you what to do. I believe my job is to give you more options, and you then will decide what you want to do based on the input. And if you're smart, you will get input not only from me, but at least 4 or 5 other people, and listen to it all. But you see, somewhere in listening to it all, you're going to hear what you know is right for you. And that is not pleasing anybody necessarily, but what it is, it's what is right for you. And this is such great advice. Yeah, Linda's saying the same thing. My job is to give variations of advice, but his decision is his. Yes, that's what I say. I can give you input. Your job is to make the decision. Gaze into the fire, into the clouds, and as soon as the inner voices begin to speak, surrender to them. Don't ask first whether it's permitted or whether you'd please your teachers or your father or some god. You will ruin yourself if you do that. All right? How many of you know that you just need to have that moment of quiet? And by the way, it can literally be that you stare at the ceiling. If you can't get outside, and just say, literally, if you've got a fan in your room that's going around, just to literally concentrate on something as simple as that, and just slow your mind down and listen. And what is amazing to me is how many times just nature will slow you down if you allow it. Okay, it's off topic, but Kerry is saying that she went to a hockey game, and a semi-pro hockey game, and now she's loving it as a fan. I um all right, now Jody, this one is for you and for anybody else that needs some inner healing. Healing depends on listening with the inner ear, stopping that insistent blather and listening. Fear keeps us chattering. Fear that wells up from the past, fear of blurting out what we really fear, fear of future repercussions. It is our fear of the future that distorts the now, that could lead in a very different future if we dared to be whole and in the present. All right. So, do you understand that? That is, um, when we calm ourselves down, when we listen from within, right? We need to stop that constant change. Yeah, I'm going to read it again if that's okay with. Well, I'm going to read it again. Kerry, no problem on that. I just wanted to try not to get out of the zone too much because it affects the transmission. So healing depends on listening with the inner ear, stopping the insistent blather and listening. Fear keeps us chattering, fear that wells up from the past, fear of blurting out what we really fear, fear of the future repercussions. It is our very fear of the future that distorts the now, and that could lead us in a different future if we dare to be whole in the present. Yeah, Jody, I am glad that resonated with you. Something told me that you would like that one. And Kerry, I'm glad that it resonated with you as well. And it did with me. And I just want you to know that it also did with me. I could feel an absolute, yeah, that our fear distorts the now. Our fear of the future um, spoils our present. Instead of just going just one more step. All right. And I always like to do that on Friday lunchtime is what do we need to take one more step? And what we need to do is live in the present and deal with what is real today, not what might be real next week. And be happy today because we can be. Um, be grateful today, Jody. I think, as you said, sometimes, being grateful every hour on the hour and just check in with yourself. What am I grateful for? I'm grateful that I can still breathe. I'm grateful I have this person in my life or these people in my life. I'm grateful for, Jody, I kept thinking that person who sent you the goodie box of meats, was that the same person that you had a bit of a run-in with a while ago? And if so, isn't that amazing? I meant to ask you that. And what we have to realize is that when the inner voice gives us guidance, it's always going to be for our highest good. And it's always going to bring us more joy than we think. Hi, Jamie. It's always going to bring us more joy. Jody, I kept wondering about that, whether it was the same person, because maybe in standing up for what your needs were, uh, gained you some respect that you didn't have before. And I think that's really important. By the way, I wanted to give a shout out, be it on the back end of this, to Lauren. As some of you know, Lauren got to meet her father and her paternal grandparents. And can you imagine the amount of emotional input that she got? All right. And how much that must have changed her life. whether she wanted it to or not. And I kept saying before she went, keep your expectations low, because, you never know how it's going to go. And keeping it low will make sure that you're pleasantly surprised, or, possibly, rather than horribly disappointed. And I keep thinking that although I like to dream for the best, that I like to deal in my sort of, I dream my future, but I deal with my reality. Yeah, she is an incredibly strong woman, Jody. I quite agree, and she getting stronger all the time. All right, and it's amazing to me. So, um, but what I wanted to give credit to was the fact that there's so much processing in her mind. Wow. So Linda's saying that she hasn't spoken to her father for 14 years, but her son has reached out to him and they're talking. Yes. And, maybe what he couldn't do for you, Linda, he can do for your son. How about this quote? It says, "Don't believe everything you hear, even in your own mind." Don't believe everything you hear, even in your own mind. So I ask myself different questions today than I did perhaps a year ago. I ask myself questions like, what would make you really happy now? And I answer that. I don't limit that now. This is what it would look like. This is what I would like to envision. And if, and I try and let go of the if what monster, well, what if monster rather. What if da 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 da? Well, that's not reality yet. When it comes reality, I'll deal with it. But I don't have that as my reality yet. Right? It's not my reality yet. And so, yes, I think Linda's comment about she has a constant conversation with her mind, I think we can all relate to that. And Linda's comment about she doesn't listen to the negativity as much is important, right? Listen to what the warning is, because I believe that's what it is, but then turn it around and say, hey, I hear you trying to protect me with this, but what would you have? What would be, the positive way of this? And see what your mind comes up with, because it's incredible what it can give you. And so here we have Mahatma Gandhi said, "The inner voice is something which cannot be described in words. But sometimes we have a positive feeling that something in us prompts us to do a certain thing. The time when I learned to recognize this voice was, I may say, the time when I started praying regularly." And for some of you, that is your quiet time when you pray. And so that is the time when you're quiet enough to do that. Now, I want to tell you, well, yes, Kerry's saying I don't always listen to my inner voice. Sometimes she's mean. But what I'm saying, Kerry, is listen to her because she's trying to warn you of something that she sees as a possible roadblock for you, or that you could get hurt. So what I've learned to do, Kerry, in I don't do it all the time, but I really work hard at doing that, which is, hey, I hear you. I hear you trying to protect me. But what would be the ideal answer to this then? And I turn it around. In other words, I hear your warning and I thank you for it. But what is the ideal? The inner voice I'd like to suggest is normally positive. It is your inner mind that is the negative. And I did you understand what I'm trying to say? It is our analytical mind that brings in the negatives. So to me, this is a really good balance. Listen to what your positive drives you to do. And then also, so Carrie, let me ask you a couple of questions before we leave this. Um, do you want to go back to being part of the uh, fitness group that puts in their calories, or do you still want to be part of that group? You see, I don't think that I ever said, I don't think that I said that you had to put in the calories. I said that some of us do. To me, this whole weight thing is psychological to such a large degree. And I believe that if you don't want to count the calories, then you don't have to, right? That's up to you. What I had hoped to do with the fitness group was actually to talk about a lot of stuff that's going on that maybe was causing us to eat. Yeah, you see, you do want to be part of the group because it's a safe place for you. Exactly. And I think that's really important. I believe that we would all say to you, hey, do whatever works for you. All right. I got out of the habit of doing calories when I was in a funk. I've gone back to doing it because I am really working hard at trying to get to a place where I know I can regularly eat this diet and be within this range of calories. In other words, I'm trying to find, I wonder if this makes sense to anybody. I'm trying to find out that if I eat oats for breakfast, if I do this for lunch, and if I do this for dinner, and I do this for an evening snack, I can be below 50% carbs and I can feel that I've had enough to eat. That's what I'm going for. And once I've got one routine that works really well, and I'm getting there, when I've got one routine that works really well on that, then I will build a second one for me. You're right. And I think it's a very personal thing. For example, Kerry, I love to eat crepes. Crepes are my comfort food on a Sunday or sometimes on a Saturday. And what I asked myself last week is, what if I make the crepes with oatmeal instead of just flour? What will they taste like? Yeah, what will be the difference? And I was actually pleasantly surprised. They were very tasty. I just took the oats and ground them into a flour and used that to make my crepes. And I can't remember. I have to have check what the caloric difference was, but it was quite surprising. And I went, well, I've just found a healthier way to have crepes. Right? And if I want to continue to have crepes, maybe that's what I will choose to do. It's an alternative. So I'm hoping, I saw the comment, Linda, about doing more of this sort of stuff. I really want to do more because I think we all need it. I think there is a level of peace in understanding ourselves better and understanding that we create our own stress and that we create our own health. And it is bad enough, right? Trying to live this life without just adding more and more into it and so much more negativity into it. And I started off by saying, I feel so desperately sorry for the immigrants, the migrants who are trying to get away from the hell that they are living. And if I spend my day worrying about them, I will not be moving forward in my life. I will just be sucking myself down into some place, and I cannot fix that problem. I also don't have the answer, and if any of you have the answer, I'd be really interested in it. Um, it is so scary to me. Now, the joke is, I also hear, on the other hand, that there is a different, suddenly a very definite um, worker shortage in America at the moment. Um, this is like, really? And you've got all these people who are dying to help and do work and change their life for the better. And yeah, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I will be at peace. I will not give it too much of my time. So here is my reality for you and for all of us, which is, let us just concentrate more on not changing the world completely. Let's change ourselves, and in doing that, change the world. Let's look more at keeping our thoughts as positive as we can, to hear the negative, but don't let it control us. To keep asking ourselves, is this fact or is it emotion? If it's just fear, then it's emotion. Some facts are pretty scary, but scared is an emotion. All right. It's just like moving forward requires that we deal with these negativities along the way. And so if we're going to continue to be at peace, as Jody does, maybe we need to check in every hour and go, how am I doing on the negativity scale? How positive have I felt? And by the way, I found, and it really has made a difference in my life. I have found that, Jody's does a check-in on her gratitude every hour, but Jody will, because I talk to her during the week quite a bit, Jody will also tell you that I literally will check in and go, in the next hour, this is what I'm going to do. And I don't try and plan the day anymore. This is what I want to do in the next hour. And, and then I do a little thing and then I rest. And then I do a little thing and I rest. And those little things, it's like eating the elephant one bite at a time. I could not believe how much I got done in the last 48 hours. It is just mind blowing what I managed to do. But it literally, it was just like consistent. Do something. This is not going to get fixed by worrying yourself sick about it. That's emotion. This is only going to get fixed if you do something about it. So I would wish us all that peace. I would wish us all that ability to just take it easy and one step at a time. And I am glad to hear that these broadcasts where we're slowing things down a bit are helping. Because I believe that our lives have become so much go, 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 go. And we're not just slowing down and listening. So now that you've heard this, what was the takeaway, if you like? What was it that you heard today that you will take and use this week? Is there anything in particular? I know for me it was, um, is it a fact or is it an emotion? And that really, I'm really, and the quote that I said, which is, emotion slows me down. Right? Emotion slows me down, stops me from doing things. Yes, don't let the fear stop us. Good one, Jody. Yeah. And boy, I want to tell you, I was I was I was literally frozen from doing anything. I was so scared at one point. And I'm certain that some of you will understand that the thing is so scary, that the monster is so scary that you just sit there and you shake, you don't do anything. And I'm going, this is insane. This is not helping me. This fear is not helping me. I need to move past the fear and do something. And I have to trust that the universe will unfold as it should. I have to trust that. And the way that I trust that is to keep making that a reality. in taking the steps that I can. Yeah. So, Kerry says that I need to stop letting my emotions control me so much. Yeah. And we're all working on that, Kerry. And that's what I said. That's when I look at things like the fitness group or stuff like that, I believe that that's all in there. All right. That when we can just support one another. And I wonder, Kerry, did you feel did you feel the need of more support within the group? And Jamie, I don't know how to thank you for your unbelievable loyalty over the years. I'm sitting here and I'm going, when I look at your name, I smile because I think how far back you go on the viewers list. And you must have been with me along the way for nearly all of the 6.5 years or whatever, Jamie. And I want to really thank you for that. It feels like you've been there almost forever. Kerry, think about this. Think about this, if you will. I I believe that had you looked at that and said, why do I need that? And have I told anybody that I need more support? All right. Then you would have received it. And so my question to you here is, did you just withdraw because you weren't getting what you needed? But you're here now, Kerry, and you're talking about it now. And the support that you need is more of your own support, right? It's we can be there for you and encourage you, but the whole thing about this is to do it for yourself. I find it really interesting that Beth, seeing as she's come in the room now, hi Beth, the thing that Beth has been very interesting in, we watch Beth go like a flying dervish, what's the word? Flying, yeah, never mind. Um, she has so much energy, and so many of us are lacking it. And she said, well, she gets her energy from the food that she eats because she eats the right food. And so, yeah, you hold things in and it's very toxic and unhealthy. And you know something, Carrie? That's really good to know that you can feel that, right? Whirling dervish. Thank you so much, Jody. The brain, my marbles were not going in the right direction with those two words, that's for sure. I just gave up. It was easier. I knew that you'd probably get it. So, you know something, Carrie? Maybe that was the lesson for you this week, right? Which is that how often do you do that in your life when you most need support, that you withdraw instead of saying, hey guys, I could do with a hug right now? All right. If you don't tell people what you need, they're not clairvoyant all of the time. And so, Kerry, it's not just you, all right? And you understand, we're all dealing with our own stuff. That's why we started this, right? All right. So to me, this is, Kerry, be kind to yourself, because in the behavior, I don't know if you listen to that stuff about the cognitive stuff. Hi, Sakura. But the whole thing about the cognitive stuff is, if you're thinking a negative thought, then you end up having a negative emotion, which in turn has a negative result that creates negative behaviors. And so if you understand, if you're feeling, I need support and I'm not getting it, and you keep going around and going, well, you see, I was right. They're not giving me anything. Then you withdraw even more and you prove yourself right and right and right. Instead of saying, hey, guys, I'm really struggling this week. I could do with some support. Duh. You know, it's like if we can't see how important that is to be able to verbalize that, then how on earth um, can we expect the world to be that clairvoyant? And I must tell you something that I think more than anything, I love my relationship. Um, I love my relationship with Yvonne because I will say to her, Yvonne, I need 5 minutes of your time because I just scared myself stupid. You know, and and she goes, "What?" I said, "I just scared myself stupid. I need to sort this one out." All right, so Kerry's saying, I hold things in and it's beyond hard to ask for help. I'm so damn independent and I've been hurt in the past, so I hold things in. Um, yeah, you see, I understand that. And Beth's saying if she hadn't opened up, then she'd probably be in hospital, from starvation. But Beth, everybody at the right time. Do you understand that? All right. Everybody will do this in their time, not somebody else's. And Kerry, I look at how far you've come, and I think you have everything for which to be proud. Really, I think what you have done with yourself is amazing. And you're walking a very different path from Beth's. And Beth walks a path that, is amazing in some ways. And I would never want you to walk that path. To me, it's how do we help Kerry walk a path that is happy for her? And how do we help Beth do what it is that she sees as her vision and do it in a peaceful way and understand where she's making mistakes, where I make my mistakes, where Jodi's making hers. It's not about a competition. I don't believe that the fitness group is about calories. I think the fitness group is about accountability. There's a difference, Kerry. All right. I choose to, for example, as I said, I had a bad week. And you know what I did? I took the calories and I put it up for the week because I sat down and went, I want to be accountable here. The reason I'm putting up weight is because of what I am putting in my body. And so I need to be accountable. And yet the joke is when I actually do the accountability stuff and I do the calories, I find out that I don't know whether, it's amazing because I did actually lose weight. And that was like, wow, I was so scared to do this and I didn't want to make time to do it, right? Because that's my choice to put the calories in or not. Kerry, the way I look at about it is this. I never have time to do that calorie thing. I make time. Yeah, and Beth, I was saying, and you weren't here and we're running over time, but Beth, I was saying earlier that I accidentally bought a dirty great bok choy this week instead of small ones. And, I just replaced potatoes with bok choy this week, right? Wherever I would normally have had and add mashed potatoes or add a baked potato, I just added a pile of bok choy. And, the incredible thing was, thank you, God, that I lost a couple of pounds just by But you have to understand, and that's why I'm talking about the inner voice. And the way that if you watch what's going on, it's quite amusing. I didn't mean to, I didn't mean to get that much bok choy, right? And so I look at it and, I listen to what you say about Charles, Beth, and what he's putting in his body. You're not going to change that, right? Only he will change that. But, it is interesting. Okay. So Kerry's saying that she could use some more support around her seasonal affective disorder. It's starting to set in. I'm fighting with your mind more and more. Yeah. Are you upping your vitamin D, Kerry? I really am a great believer. Everybody's living their life at their speed. And we can give as much input as we like, but they'll only take what they choose to take at this time, depending on where they are and what's going on. Yeah, Kerry, I want to tell you that I used to suffer from SAD, and ever since I started taking extra vitamin D, it has really helped me. I really don't struggle with it as much. Okay, what it is, Beth, just so you understand, is that a lack of sunlight affects certain people. I had it happen because I was used to living in Africa, and I suddenly went from all that sunshine, every single day, 12 months of the year, to, British Columbia rain for it was horrible. The shorter days, everything, and it was just like wow. And I really struggled, and it caused me to be in depression for a lot of time until I found vitamin D. Yeah, Kerry, and feel free to write to us if you need to as well. That's what the whole point is. You do need some support, right? And that's the funny thing, is that when Jody thinks that we're clairvoyant, when we suddenly say, "Are you okay?" and she isn't, the reason we know she's not okay is she is not communicating the way she normally does. It's not that we're clairvoyant, Jody. You are a high communicator. When you're not doing high communication during the day, what do we know? You're not doing well. Duh. Um, so Carrie is a high communicator most of the time. Yeah, what I'm suggesting is you may want to do a little bit of research on how much vitamin D should you be taking when you suffer from SAD. Yeah, see, Beth says she has to take massive amounts of vitamin D. Yeah. So I definitely know that my mood is directed a lot, especially in the winter with my vitamin D. I up my vitamin D. I take vitamin D all year round on its own, regardless of what other vitamins I'm taking. I take a vitamin D, and then in the winter, if I start to feel those sad symptoms come in, I up it. All right. So, do you know how many? I think they're called international units. Kerry, do you know how many you take a day? You see, the other thing is this, Kerry. A lot of people will say you can get all those vitamins by eating properly. I'm pretty sure that Beth will talk about that. But I do believe in things like vitamin D. You do need the supplements. So have a look at what they recommend, right? Don't take our word for it. Just, do a little bit of research into it and find out what they recommend, and, talk to your doctor about it as well. Yeah, you see, Jody's saying she takes 3,000 units a day, not 1,000. So talk to your doctor. I want to tell you something, Beth. When I take vitamin D properly, my mood improves. And in fact, I want to thank Kerry for mentioning it, because I do think it's time for me to up it for the winter. Yeah, so check it out. 15,000 units. That's a heck of a lot of units. Wow. And you're saying that's because of your MS gobbles up your vitamin D. Interesting. Okay, guys, I do need to go because I have to prepare for another broadcast. And so I didn't know. You see, what I love about doing the broadcast is I learn something every week, which is I didn't know that MS eats up vitamin D. That's totally new to me, and it's incredible to learn these things. Wow. All right. So the good news is I did lose some weight. The good news is, you know, Beth, how is baby Lily? Just while we've got you here, and before I close the broadcast. And how did you do? I have a note on my notes here to check in with you every broadcast to see how you're doing on the grandmother scale rather than pretend mother scale. Yes, it makes you weaker without it. That's a very good point. All right. So everybody, depending on which hemisphere you're in, if the days are getting shorter, you might want to think about upping your vitamin D. But do the research and talk to your doctor. Oh, baby Lily is so beautiful. How about that? Isn't that wonderful? And Mum's doing well, I hope. We had a baby in my family this week as well, Beth, just so that you know. When I say in my family, Yvonne's son just had another baby boy. I'm so grandmother mode. I just came to hold her and love her and then leave. Well done, Beth. I'm so proud of you. Yeah, Jamie, for you in Southern California, the lack of daylight isn't as much of a problem as it is for me here in Vancouver. So that's the point that I'm saying. It depends on where you live and how much daylight you're getting. And it may be as simple as well for some of us to actually spend the money and buy, some light bulbs. I think when I go to the fifth wheel, I'm going to get some light bulbs that are daylight bulbs so that I can increase the amount of, daylight energy I'm getting within a confined space. I have a feeling that the confined space, will also affect. And so I'm thinking about ways to get ready for that. All right. So I hope you've all found this an interesting broadcast. And remember to listen to your inner voice. Remember, you're procrastinating for a good reason. Ask yourself what it is. Why? What am I scared of? Is that a fact or is it an emotion? So I would like to really encourage you to take a new look at this, ready for the winter. Take a new look at where am I, if emotion slows you down, if you can see that, then that's how you get unstuck, is to hang on a second, I'm into the emotion of this now. And that's not going to help me. If I want to take a step forward, I need to stop concentrating on the emotion and start working on doing. Beth, I believe the reason you achieve so much in the day is you don't let emotion get in your way too much. And I really do think that I listen to you and I listen to what you do, and you're always on to the next task. I very rarely hear you talk about emotion. Now, maybe that's a learning for you, all right? That start balancing that a little bit. But you definitely don't get caught up in huge amounts of emotion. Yeah, you get into the work zone. And by the way, it really helped me this week, Beth, and I want to thank you. Because I actually use you as a benchmark now, where I'm going, yeah, what would Beth be doing about this right now? And I'm going, she'd be doing something, that's for damn sure. And then I then I go into that mode for a short time, for as much as I can, and I realize that I cannot do as much as I would like, and then I rest, and then I do a little bit more. Yeah, Beth, I really want to tell you I appreciate that. So big hugs to you all, and let's keep moving one step forward at a time and know that our speed is the right speed. Kerry, I think what happened to you is very important. It's another lesson. And you don't have to change, but you may choose to. And you may choose to realize that getting caught up in whatever it is that catches you like this is what slows you down. And, you know, let us help you, because that's what we always wanted to do, is to be here for you when you wanted it. And if you don't want us, we won't hound you. But I did want to just check in and see what was happening, because your behavior changed. And when people's behavior changes, there's a reason. It's not without reason. There's always a reason for it. So, Jody, I'm really sorry that I have to admit that I'm not as clairvoyant as you think I am. It's just that when your behavior changes, I know that something's up. It's quite simple. As I'm sure you know the same with me, right? Jody knows not to talk to me until I've had my second cup of coffee. It's like my marbles don't start rotating until I get that second cup inside me. And by the way, I found it quite interesting this week. I actually did one cup of coffee that was just literally steamed milk. And I hardly noticed the fact the coffee wasn't in there. So that's an interesting psychological. I went, that almost tasted like there wasn't any coffee in it. I went, that's because there wasn't. When I opened up the Keurig, my one marble was going around, but it forgot to put the coffee pod into the thing. And I didn't notice, I'm so asleep. I didn't notice when I poured the steamed milk in that there wasn't any coffee in there. But I found out it actually doesn't taste too bad. The skim milk powder steamed just on its own is quite pleasant. All right, everybody, have a super day, and I'll catch you this evening. Does anybody have a topic you'd like me to talk about this evening? Yeah, happy birthday to Juliana Bear. It was on the 10th, I think, wasn't it? 12th? 12th, I think. Yeah. So I actually did a little video for her, Jamie, and I sent it to Mommy and said, play this for Juliana for me. Because it's been such a long time since I've been down there to see them that I'm scared that she'll forget what I look like. So, or what my voice sounds like, because we know my voice is different. And it used to scare them so much because my voice was so different. Yeah, so cute. All right, everybody, have a super afternoon or evening, wherever you are. And we will chat to you a bit later. If nobody's got a particular subject they'd like me to talk about, I will then pick my own. This is DearMamaSal saying big hugs. Love you dearly. Let's keep moving one step at a time in the right direction for us, not for everybody else, just wherever we want to go. Bye-bye for now.